Today we're driving the 2023 Toyota Highlander. This is a platinum all-wheel drive model. It starts at $51,000 as tested with a few options. This is 54 grand out the door. So, as many of you know, we own a 2021 Toyota Highlander Hybrid Limited, and I just drove the new Grand Highlander. So we're going to make some comparisons in this video. We're going to walk you around this, show you what it looks like inside and out. 2023 model sees a few changes, the most notable of which is this 2.4 liter turbocharged inline four-cylinder. This makes 265 horsepower, 309 pound-feet of torque. That's mated to the 8-speed automatic transmission. This turbocharged four-cylinder replaces the V6 that previously powered this Highlander. And of course you get the option between this and the hybrid powertrain with the CVT and the regular Highlander, and then with the Grand Highlander it sees these two powertrains as well as the hybrid max powertrain. So let's start on the outside. This is painted in a beautiful cypress green. Lovely color for 2023. We get the running boards on this platinum all-wheel drive, which are probably this Highlander's most annoying feature. They just get in the way. We had them on our Hybrid Limited and I immediately removed them, but it wasn't as straightforward of a thing as I thought it would be. You have to replace this panel with a piece from Toyota. That's about 600 bucks, and then you can sell these on eBay or something. Who knows? But wouldn't spec a Highlander with these running boards. It's just not necessary because this isn't that high of a vehicle to get into. Otherwise, it's really easy ingress and egress. About 8 inches of ground clearance, all-wheel drive with different off-road driving assist modes, mud and sand, rock and dirt. A lot of chrome, fancy bits on this platinum all-wheel drive. Probably don't need a swing for this top trim. The XLE is really nicely optioned, and we really enjoy our Limited. 20-inch wheels, lots of chrome. Not the most attractive looking crossover SUV, but it gets the job done. Kind of looks like a big RAV4. Now in the back here is where we really see the big difference between this and the Grand Highlander. Kind of a tight third row, still usable in a pinch, but nothing like some other vehicles in this segment, and not as big back here as the Grand Highlander. We still get a reasonable amount of room behind the third row. You can fold these seats down. We'll use this. And there's plenty of cargo space. A little bit of storage underneath there too. We've got a cargo cover that attaches right here, or actually right over there. Captain's chairs in the second row of this Highlander. Pretty nice little area. Let's fold these seats up though so we can get a pretty good idea of what it's like to sit back here. I actually have never used the third row in our personal Highlander. Automatic lifting tailgate. You can also stick your foot under there, do a little dance, and the tailgate will lift up. Nice rear shades. Pretty comfortable back seat area in this Highlander. Captain's chairs are really nice. We have the bench row in ours, and it all seems to work just fine. Rear climate controls, 2 USB-C ports. I'll show you some of the changes for the 23 model year. So we get a slightly different center stack here. 2 12.3-inch displays, one for the gauge cluster, one for the infotainment. We get Toyota's new updated infotainment, which we'll show you in a minute. And just some different climate control buttons right here, which are really nice because a lot of that previously was hidden in the infotainment. Like you couldn't turn on recirculating air at a moment's notice. You had to go into the screen. Now you can. They've also moved the location of the wireless charger to right underneath the air vents, and we have a nice open center console here where we can put larger water bottles, a purse, bags, cameras, etc. So I'm liking that. This is finally a usable space. And we've got all of our drive modes. Everything's pretty well organized in this Highlander. Love the physical controls and ergonomics in this interior. And this is a pretty attractive looking space. I like the coloring, I like the surfacing. It's nice to see Toyota injecting some color and style into their interiors. The quality here is very nice too, almost encroaching upon Lexus levels of quality and feel. Cool, nice big space back here. Some cup holders. Unlike the Grand Highlander, this is not removable. Let's see what the easiest way to get back here is. Looks like we can just push this forward, and that automatically goes like that. And then we get into the third row. Oof, yeah, there's not a lot of room back here. But again, for kids and for adults in a pinch, this is usable. I have, my head's kind of right up into the ceiling. I'm 5'10", but I could survive back here on a short journey. Yeah, that's with the seat pretty much pushed all the way back. There we go. Takes a minute to get the hang of which lever to pull, but they're all numbered, and we've got little icons on what they do, which is nice. Let's show you what this turbocharged 2.4 liter looks like. I actually did not drive the V6 Highlander, so I don't really have much to talk about in comparison, this versus that. I'm sure some people will miss the V6. This Turbo 4 seems really nicely paired with this 8-speed auto. Got plenty of torque. Gets about 28 miles to the gallon on the highway, 21 in the city. Mounted nice and low. This feels like a slightly speedier and more nimble drivetrain than the CVT hybrid, but outright power difference isn't huge. This can tow up to 5,000 pounds, which is nice. Hybrid is limited to 3,500 pounds. You can get this in all-wheel drive, front-wheel drive. There's something like 8 different trims with the Highlander. You could pretty much get anything ranging to high 30s to almost $55,000 here. Okay, we already talked a little bit about this interior, but let me just show you some of the updates. They've added temperature displays in our knobs here. We got heated and ventilated seats, heated steering wheel, that's right here. We've got a button to pop the tailgate, a 360 camera view monitor, liking that, and it will even draw a picture of what's underneath you as you reverse out of a space, which is very neat. I like to see that. Infotainment is pretty much the same as we've seen in a lot of new Toyota products. Very CarPlay, Android Auto focused. We get wireless connections for both of those, which is nice. Here's all of your music. You can quickly access your phone contacts right there. We've got some vehicle settings. I mean, honestly, there isn't really a whole lot going on in this infotainment. It's mostly meant to just connect to CarPlay. You've got navigation, which works well. And that's about it. Physical buttons here for climate control. I like that a lot. Really easy to read temperature displays. And down here you've got your drive modes. Sport, normal, eco. They pretty much just changed throttle mapping. And then you've got a bunch of all-wheel drive settings, which you don't get in the hybrid. Mud and sand, rock and dirt, and then just normal. And that'll control the torque distribution with this all-wheel drive system. You also get hill descent control, a snow mode. You can turn off traction control, and you get stop-start in this 2.4 turbo, which is actually very clever. I'll show you guys that when we get on the road, but it's kind of operates based on brake pedal pressure, which I think is neat. So if you just have a light amount of pressure at a stoplight, stop-start won't engage. If you push down a little bit farther, it'll turn on and engine will turn off. There are a lot of places to put things in this interior, but none of them are really very grippy. I wish Toyota would add some rubber lining or just some grippy surfaces to some of these spots. I don't have the grippiest phone case, and I feel like it's always kind of sliding around and down here. You've got some nice cup holders, some spots in here, but again, everything's just kind of this scratchy plastic. So it would be nice to see some felt or higher grip surfaces inside these storage areas. This is pretty good right here, but the rest of it is just kind of hard plastic. Seats are pretty comfortable. Steering wheel's nice. We've got lots of physical controls here for adaptive cruise control, lane centering, stuff like that. It's all very straightforward. This gauge cluster is the upgraded 12.3-inch cluster. It's just a little bit dark. Toyota doesn't have the sharpest gauge cluster for some reason. I'd be inclined to opt for a lower trim just so we get analog gauges in there. But it's fine. You can see what the information that you need to. You can choose between a number of different gauge settings. You can kind of save 3 different options. And this looks like it's pretty much Toyota's new gauge cluster design, which I'm fine with. It works. It gets the job done. Okay, let's take this for a drive. A couple more features to go over before we get started. We have a dash cam here, which is an option, kind of neat, and then a digital rear view mirror in this platinum trim, as well as you can spy on your kids with this fisheye lens. That's nice. Big panoramic sunroof. Lots of seatbelt adjustment there. This is about as low as your driver position goes, and it feels pretty good for me at 5'10". Wouldn't mind going a little bit lower, but that's okay. We got a head-up display, full color. Okay, that's enough of a walk around. Let's go take this for a drive. I did briefly get a stint in the Toyota Grand Highlander with a 2.4 turbo, and I've got to say this drives mostly the same. The Grand Highlander, I think, has slightly better suspension tuning, slightly more enjoyable dynamics. It feels a bit more refined on the road and the way it rides, but to be honest, the differences between the two cars are a few little interior bits. Of course, the overall size of the vehicle and usability of that third row and rear storage area, and just some design. That's about it. Ultimately, these cars are very similar with some differentiation and a reasonable price difference. The tuning here with this 2.4 turbo is really well done. It's pretty smooth with this 8-speed auto. Light throttle application, feels good around town. There's plenty of power to pass on the highway. It should get reasonable fuel economy. I mean, honestly, you're not gaining a ton in power here versus the hybrid, but you're sacrificing quite a bit with fuel economy. I've been driving this around all week, and I've averaged, according to the readout, about 22 miles to the gallon. In our hybrid, we'd be at about 32 miles to the gallon with similar driving habits. So you're taking a pretty significant MPG hit. You're still only putting regular fuel in here. You don't have to put premium in this Highlander, but you know, for that extra little bit of power, a little bit of torque, and some extra towing capability, you're seeing a pretty big fuel economy hit. And I'm not really sure this 2.4 turbo is worth getting over the hybrid for that reason. There's one thing I really like over the hybrid that this 2.4 turbo offers, and that's just the brake pedal feel. Toyota has really struggled with their brake pedal tuning in the Highlander hybrid. It's mildly better, probably, in the new Grand Highlander, but this feels very natural, very normal, whereas our hybrid at lower speeds is a bit weird. It's a bit wonky. Pedal modulation can be really challenging. The only other differences that I'm noticing between this and our hybrid 2021 Highlander is just this feels a little bit nimbler, a little bit lighter underneath you, not as hefty, doesn't have the weight of the battery system. But to be honest, it's kind of splitting hairs and something that probably 90% of people wouldn't even notice. I do appreciate the smoothness of the hybrid powertrain, though it is a little bit loud when merging onto the highway. That CVT just drones away, and there's some RPMs, some resonance that happens through the cabin that can be a little bit unpleasant. This 2.4 turbo, though, it's still not the quietest engine. It's not bad, but it's not completely silent either. Still, it's a decent powertrain. It gets the job done. I don't really have any complaints about its drivability. This week it's felt pretty nice to daily drive and cruise around town in. And on longer road trips, it should get pretty decent fuel economy. Depends how you use your Highlander. A few little rattles over bumps from the back area. pretty typical with a lot of crossovers and SUVs with 3 rows, especially with captain's chairs. There's just a lot of stuff that can rattle and bounce around. Chances are you're going to have car seats in here and a bunch of other stuff that's also going to rattle, and it'll all kind of cancel itself out. Very nice JBL sound system. One of my favorite JBL units in the Toyota lineup. We've done multiple tests of that, so we're probably not going to bore you guys with another sound system test. I do like how torquey this 2.4 turbo is. It really pulls nicely, even at lower RPM. At 3,000 RPM, it just gets up and goes. It's not needing to downshift a ton to get power. And again, it's coordinating very well with this 8-speed automatic in shift decisions, etc. Loving our steering wheel controls here for adaptive cruise control and lane centering. Super easy to tell what you're pressing. You can make adjustments very easily. You can't skip 5-mile-an-hour increments, but you can hold the button and it'll make changes very quickly. You can have one of 3 different following distance settings, and everything's pretty clearly laid out on the head-up display / digital gauge cluster here. Highway speeds, not a lot of wind noise, not a lot of NVH. Sounds pretty good in here. Let's see what passing power is like. Decent power here too. No complaints with that. No paddle shifters. We did get paddle shifters in the Grand Highlander. Let's go into sport mode just for fun to see what happens. We do have some manual control here. A little bit of decel off throttle. And, you know, the Highlander, it's not the most athletic crossover. It gets the job done. Handling is maybe average to below average in this segment. It's not very fun or exciting to drive, but it is very comfortable and very nice to live with and experience on a daily basis. So it's a relaxing vehicle to drive. I think the focus here is more on luxury and comfort instead of sportiness and driving engagement, which is fine. Every crossover out there doesn't need to drive like a sports car, and every buyer doesn't need a crossover that's trying to be a sports car. Ride quality is very nice. Again, on the softer side, which is fine. It's very comfortable. Pretty good isolation over bumps, even on these 20-inch wheels. There's a bit of a difference in NVH between the 20-inch wheels and the 18s. I do prefer the 18s for our potholed Michigan roads, but ultimately there's still a good amount of sidewall here, which is fine. One advantage to this non-hybrid Highlander is you would probably get slightly better off-road performance. Not that you're going to be able to really do much with 8 inches of ground clearance, but the all-wheel drive system is probably better suited to off-road environments, articulation, some trails. There's actually a physical drive shaft going to the rear axle instead of just an electric motor and hybrid battery system. So you kind of have to weigh the pros and cons between this 2.4 turbo and the hybrid. Personally, I think the hybrid's a better buy just because of that amazing fuel economy number. Being able to average 30 miles to the gallon or higher easily, maybe even more with a front-wheel drive model, is a really pretty compelling thing for a vehicle this size. And of course, there's also the Grand Highlander for a few $1,000s extra. But as it sits, the standard Highlander is probably going to be an easier proposition to acquire over the next few years, and a little bit of cost savings there too, depending on if you need the extra space or not. Personally, with only one kid right now, the Grand Highlander is a little bit overkill, and this just kind of seems to fit the bill perfectly. We really enjoyed our Highlander Hybrid Limited, and have no plans of getting rid of it anytime soon. So that said, this 2.4 turbo drives great. I don't really have a lot of complaints about this. It's just that the fact that the hybrid exists and you can get so much better fuel economy with that makes a pretty compelling argument for that. But overall, really enjoyed living with this Highlander this week. It's just an easy car to get in, drive, live with. There's no really sticking points with the interior or infotainment or ergonomics in here. Everything's just beautifully laid out. It's comfortable, and it just does its intended purpose very well in the Toyota way. So I think we'll just wrap things up there. Thanks so much for watching. Let me know if you guys have any questions in the comments. Stay tuned for more videos, and go check out I think we have 3 Grand Highlander reviews: a Platinum, a Limited with the Hybrid Max powertrain, and a 2.4 turbo with the Platinum powertrain, or something along those lines. We did a quick drive in that. And that was actually my first time driving the 2.4 turbo, and this week, after living with this, it's still a very nice powertrain. I am a big fan of these 20-inch Platinum wheels. Slightly different wheel design than what you get on the Limited. There's kind of a hubcap separation that happens with the Limited 20s. It's a bit strange. These are true full alloy wheels, and they do look pretty premium. 235, 55 are 20-inch tires. Yep. Kind of hard to see, but there's your dash cam right there. Alright guys, thanks again for watching. Hopefully that video was helpful. We'll come out with some more videos later this week. Stay tuned for that. We'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.